And we are a go. Sick. Just make sure all my settings are good. Input, yep, sick. Perfect. Beast mode. All right, cool. All right, we're ready to rock. You stay here a little bit. Why not? All right. In 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. What up, everybody? Happy Sunday. It's Ben Thomas, and you are listening to the very first episode of Full Gongshow. Yes, it is here. I know. You couldn't wait for it. I couldn't wait either. I'm getting a jump on it. It is currently 10:15 in Oklahoma right now, where I am at. And I've already been awake. I've been awake since like 6 a.m. I'd had some auditions I had to do for Scandals. If you don't know what it is, that's fine. It's just this competition at OU. I love it. I have a blast. It went really well. So that being that, I was like, sure, I'm going to sit down and do my podcast now because I'm just in a groove. I'm in a groove. I'm feeling good. So let's just get this rolling, all right? So like I mentioned, it is episode 1. So just to lay it out how this is going to work. So for this episode specifically, we will be discussing all the events from Wednesday night, all hockey stuff, from Wednesday night till whenever I record this. So it's 10:15 in the morning, so I'm not going to talk about Sunday night's games probably till the very end of this episode, but I'm going to cover all the games through Saturday night from Wednesday. So, and then Wednesday, the next episode, I'll explain how that's going to break down. But for that, this is what that's what this episode is going to be about, is from Wednesday to Saturday night. And believe me, there was a full slate of hockey action this week. A lot of crazy big-time games. We're going to dive into not every single one. I picked out like about 2 or 3 that I would consider our big games or big-time matchups. Or just, the scores were just freaking outrageous. I don't even know. So just something like that. But, yeah, without further ado, let's just dive right into it. I mean, I could talk a little bit. I said it has on my rundown. I could talk about my week. But, do y'all really care to hear about my week? I mean, I'm a journalism major in college. I think you can assume how my week went. Granted, though, we did have a snow days. Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday were all snow days here in Oklahoma because where I'm from in Chicago, if we get a couple inches of snow, I'm in shorts. You get a couple inches here, the entire state shuts down. It's kind of awesome. I won't lie. I've had more snow days in college than I think I've ever had just normal school in Illinois. It just doesn't happen. That just never happens. I will go to school in 2 feet of snow and it'll be below 0. And here it's like 20 degrees and raining and people are like, shut everything down because there might be ice. Okay. That was my week. I talked about it. I'm just checking off all my rundown stuff. All right. So let's dive into it. All right. Let's dive into it. No guests today. I'm going to try to get a guest down here soon. Within the next couple episodes, I'll for sure have one later on. During my spring break week, which is in 2 weeks. My Wednesday episode is going to be fire. I'm going to have my boys on because we'll be in Miami, but that's a few weeks away. I don't want to spoil it. All right. To my avid listeners, because I know there's so many. But all right, here we go. Let's dive into it. Let's go right into Wednesday action. All right, cool. Had to take that. So, all right, kicking it off with Wednesday action. Let's get right into it. All right, let's do it. All right, first game up. I mean, there was obviously a lot of great action on Wednesday. That was February 23rd, if you don't know the day of the week. You had Winnipeg, Dallas, Colorado, Detroit, Edmonton, Tampa, Buffalo, Montreal, Los Angeles, Arizona. Now, the 2 games I want to talk about. First one, Colorado, Detroit. All right, the Avs, to me, best team in the NHL. Easy. Their roster is so deep from top to bottom, all 4 lines, all 3 deep pairings. I would say maybe goaltending's a little weak. I'm not sold on Darcy Kemper or Pavel Francois. I don't know why. I don't even know if I'm pronouncing that last name right. I really don't think I am. Francois, I don't even know. It's just a French name. I'm really bad with those. My apologies to him. If he ever tunes into this, I will probably butcher his name a lot. But the Avalanche also continuously are just one of the hottest teams in the NHL. No matter what. They drop 1 or 2 games, and then they're going to win like 7 or 8 in a row. Like, it's just how they are. And that was no different Wednesday night. They took on a Detroit Red Wings team that I think is surprising a whole lot of people. They missed that. They had that, 25, 26-year run where they made the playoffs, and then they just hit this rebuild, this total rebuild. But Captain Larkin and the boys, they're looking good. They're looking so good. And honestly, the NHL needs Detroit to be good. An original 6 franchise, if the NHL has all original 6 franchises rolling in the playoffs, making it deep into the playoffs, it is only better for the sport because those are like the biggest teams, biggest fan bases. And I don't talk money. I don't like talking money, but I know the NHL does. And when you have original 6 teams in there, kind of looks a lot better and revenue-wise generates a lot more. But I also enjoy, Tampa getting in and Vegas getting in and Washington winning and Pittsburgh. There's always those teams, obviously. But when Detroit is good, it is only better for the sport. I wish they still played the Hawks in the Central Division. Oh, I miss that rivalry so much. But I totally understand all the new stuff. It makes sense. And they were the only Eastern time zone team in the Western Conference. It didn't really make sense. So they got out of there. Makes sense. But back to this game on Wednesday night. Francouz made 32 saves. It was his first win since January 28th, And honestly, it was a 5-2 win over Detroit, in Detroit. And it was Darren Helm. Darren Helm made his return to Detroit. Now, we were like, dude, why are you going to mention Darren Helm? Darren Helm played, I think it was 14 seasons in Detroit. And this is his first one, not in Detroit. That's kind of big. Darren Helm, not a huge big-time player, but, still really solid. He's just a solid third, fourth-line guy, penalty kill guy. That's just how he is. And they said, you know what, man, you're making a turn to Detroit. We're going to play on the top line with Nate McKinnon. And look at that. Very first shift has an assist in the game to open the scoring. I think it was Gabriel Landeskog buried it. And that just set off Colorado. All they need is 1 or 2, and then they are just all cylinders go. Honestly, it's kind of insane how good they are. I mean, Landeskog, McKinnon, Makar, Rantanen, JT Compher. I mean, Nazem Kadri. I'm still naming off names because I just start remembering them. They are just that good. And it is just so scary for the NHL. And I wish they would make deep runs in the playoffs because seeing them in the finals would be great. I keep getting off on different tangents, so I apologize. But on the flip side, the Red Wings, who are fighting for a playoff spot, dropped one against the Avs. It is a Western Conference team, so it's not that big of a deal. Obviously, you want your points, but you'd rather lose to a Western Conference team than an Eastern Conference team in terms of standings. Now, Thomas Greiss, who's been solid for him before this game on Wednesday, had won 3 of his last 4, made 26 saves in the loss, but like I said, Colorado's just that good. It's just impossible to stop them. Once they get rolling, teams beat them. They're beatable, but you have to play your best game. It is going to be a tough, tough, tough night when you have to face them. Nazem Kadri put in a goal. I think Landeskog had 2. Valerie Nichushkin extended the lead. So it was just an overall great performance from the Avs. Like I said, deep team. They just throw everything at you. I would say Detroit probably has 1, 2 lines, maybe 3, 2.5 lines. Colorado's got 4. And when you have to play a team with that much depth and they can just plug guys in, they lose McKinnon for a week or 2. They have some person that they can just plug into that number 1 center role, and it's boom, pick up right where they left off. So it's just super impressive. This team is just fast. Coach Bednar, honestly, might be one of the best coaches in the NHL. He was not a big name hire either when they first hired him because I think they had Patrick Waugh prior to that. And this guy, hands down, one of the best coaches in the league. I think he's like John Cooper. John Cooper was like a pretty decent name, but when Tampa Bay hired him, they're like, okay, let's see how this goes. And he's exceeded. Actually, I don't even think excelled puts it at the level that he has done, and that's the same with Bednar. Like, this Avs team exceeds expectations every year. Everybody's like, this is the best team in the NHL. And then they go out there, and they're like, even better than the best team in the NHL. Like, it's crazy how good this team is. So that was that game. Larkin on Detroit. I'm raving about Colorado. I need to stop. But I'm in my USA hockey gear. And, like, I don't know. They got a lot of good Americans on that Colorado team. But so does Detroit. I don't even know where I was going with that. But not the point. Dylan Larkin had 2 assists. He's currently on an 8-game point streak. Well, this was on Wednesday, so keep that in mind. He could have lost it by then, so don't quote me on that. And then honestly, okay, Colorado 9-1-1 in their last 11 road games. That's insane. I forgot what their home record is recently. They haven't lost 25 straight home games, or they haven't dropped a point. They've gotten a point in the last 25 home games or something like that. It's insane. But I'm looking at my notes, and there's this one guy that I want to talk about actually, and he's on Detroit. He's not even on Colorado. Is Moritz Seider. Okay, he had 2 assists and has now had 8 points in a 5-game point streak in this Wednesday night, obviously. This kid is special. Insanely special. I mean, I don't even know how to describe it. I think Detroit struck gold with this kid. He was taken at that time a little high. I want to say he was 8th in his draft year. And honestly, if you had to redraft it, I think he'd go 1, 2, or 3 at this point. I think he's that good. He's already their number 1 guy. And he's I think he's 20. He's 20 or 21. He's that young. This kid's and he's putting up points. The way Cale Makar stepped in, I mean, I can compare it to Colorado because they just played each other. The way Cale Makar just stepped in, made an immediate impact, and became a stud right away is exactly how I think Moritz Seider is going to be. This kid is already in the running for Rookie of the Year, might even win it unless his teammate Lucas Raymond has anything to say about it, or Trevor Zegras. I honestly think it'll be Zegras in the end, but I think Moritz Seider can make a huge case. This kid will win a Norris, if not 2, by the time his career is over. I'm banking on it right now. I would cash that. I would bet on it right now. Just in his career, he will win at least 1 Norris Trophy, and I wouldn't even be surprised if it's in the next 5 years. Hot take? Maybe, but I truly believe that. This kid is that special. The way he's able to handle the puck, his calmness and his presence in the defensive and offensive zone for that team, he's just a backbone. He's going to be a backbone for that defensive core group moving forward. Just like I said, number 1 guy. The kid is such a smooth skater. The puck flies off of his stick, whether it's a pass or it's a shot. It rips off of his stick. Unbelievable. The kid he can score. He can shut you down. You can play him against the top guys. You can play him against the third line. And he is going to be so good. I'm really excited for this kid. I usually don't like to talk highly on Detroit, being a Blackhawks fan, but this kid's special. It's hard to not give credit where credit is due when this kid is that special. So that's that. Moving on to the next game from Wednesday night. Montreal. They were in the Cup Finals last year, and now they have fired their coach and hired Martin St. Louis, who, 1, didn't expect that. 2, love it. That guy, Martin St. Louis, come on. That's insane. You get to have Martin St. Louis, a Hall of Famer, as your coach. If I'm Cole Caulfield, he's already done wonders for this kid, and I'm going to kind of touch on that a little bit in this game because Cole Caulfield had a big game. The guy is the same height. He knows exactly how to play this game with his height and use it to his advantage instead of it being a disadvantage. And if I'm Cole Caulfield, I'm sitting in Martin St. Louis' office every day talking, figuring out the best way because the kid has skill. I kind of thought he was overrated. Another hot take. I think Cole Caulfield's a little overrated. But if anybody were to help this kid and turn this kid into a star, it would be Martin St. Louis. I never would have expected to say that name, but I truly believe it now at this point. So they play the Buffalo Sabres. Sabres are brutal. We all know this. Nothing new. But the Canadiens, through Wednesday, had won their season-high 4th win in a row. And like I said, longest winning streak of the season. Sam Montembeau was in goal, 32 saves, first career NHL shutout. Nick Suzuki, another young stud on this team. They locked him up, too, after his last playoff run. He had a great playoff run, a good season last year. And Bergevin, he's no longer there. But when he was there, he just locked this kid up and for the next 7-8 years. Honestly, a lot of people were skeptical about it. I like it. I'm big on locking up your young guys long term for like 8 years. Because if you really think about it, what if this kid pops off year 2 or year 3? You're getting 5 years of this kid at $3-something million, $4-something million. Like when he could have a 2 or 3 year deal, be done with it, be putting up 70 points, and now he's going to want 8 or 9, and you're going to be cap restraint. Like, not a bad thing. Throwing that out there. I do it all the time in GM mode and franchise mode in NHL, but I'm honestly a huge fan of it. Nick Suzuki's worth it. He came over in that Pacioretty deal. It seems like years ago at this point, but it was a huge asset at that time, and it's continuing to be that as well. But since Martin St. Louis took over, they're 4-3-0. They were 12-33-7, and are now they're now 12-33-7. But prior to that, they were what? 8-30-7. They had 8 wins. They just cracked the double-digit mark in wins. Like, that's killer. Crazy for a team that was in the Cup Finals last year. Literally the Cup Finals. Granted, Carey Price hasn't played, been hurt. Shea Weber, backbone, he's hurt, he's done. Like, they've obviously lost some of their big pieces, but I don't really think this team was supposed to be dead last in the league. Like, Arizona, I think, has a better record than them. And they are about to play in a college stadium that seats 5,000 people. Like, and you're Montreal, too. You're Canadian market. You're an original 6 team. Like, come on. You need to get this going. So they play Buffalo. Easy win, 4-0. I just wanted to talk about Montreal as a whole because they have the new coach, because they've been so bad this year. And this was a big game for them. It got them above 500 in the last 7 games. St. Louis seems to have this team buzzing. And Cole Caulfield, man, he has got that kid working. I don't know what it is, but he's been on fire lately. He has 10 points in 7 games under St. Louis after scoring only 1 goal in his first 30 games. And this kid is a goal scorer. He is a sniper. He lit it up at Wisconsin in the NCAA, just tearing it up. He is meant to score. And to have only 1 goal then in his first 30 games, and he was up and down in the minors and back, and St. Louis comes in and goes, all right, kid, this is how you do it. Boom, 10 points, 6 goals, 4 assists. The kid has been lighting the lamp like crazy. It has been so fun to watch. I haven't really gotten to watch a whole lot of their games to see their team as a collective group, but to see a young kid with so much promise, especially in the market like Montreal where they will eat you alive if you're not performing, to have this kid get the help like Martin St. Louis is going to be so big. Like, even for if St. Louis is around for what, 2-3 years, it's still going to pay huge dividends for Cole Caulfield. And then, like I mentioned, Nick Suzuki, 5 points in a 3-game point streak. And that's what I'm saying. Just maybe the new coach, Martin St. Louis effect. Who knows? Maybe Martin St. Louis will become the next great NHL coach. I don't know. I could see it, but that was that. So, all right. So that was Wednesday's games. All right. That was 2. Now we're going to head to Thursday's games. All right, Thursday's games. Let's dive into it. So Thursday, February 24th. So we had more games in action. I think Wednesday had 5 games. This looks like we had 8 games. So 16 teams playing. You had Jersey, Pittsburgh, Minnesota, Toronto, Columbus, Florida, Washington Rangers, Dallas, Nashville, Calgary, Vancouver, Boston, Kraken, and New York Islanders and San Jose. So actually some pretty decent matchups. It was kind of tough to pick. But there were only about 3 games that really stuck out to me. One of them being, honestly, coming into this, didn't really think this was going to be a big game I was going to talk about. And then the Devils just exploded for 6 against Pittsburgh and made it 6-1. They beat them 6-1. And I had to talk about it because New Jersey hadn't played in 8 games. Or, not 8 games, 8 days. They're coming off an 8-day break. And then just show up, you would think, legs feel a little heavy. You haven't skated a whole lot in 8 days. You haven't played games. And then they dropped 6 goals on Pittsburgh for Pittsburgh's 3rd straight loss, actually, through Thursday. I think they got a win after that. I'm not 100% certain on that. They did. They won on Saturday. But this is Thursday. So at the time, they had a 3-game losing streak. And overall, for the Devils, another team I think that has just underperformed this year. I mean, this team started real hot early in the year, and then goaltending. They have started 8 different dudes this year in goal. I might be botching that number. It's between 6 and 8 in terms of goalies. And when you have to do that, yeah, you're probably not going to be doing too well during the season. But this game, totally different. So Nico Hischier, former number 1 overall pick, had a goal and 2 assists. Another former number 1 overall, Jack Hughes, had 3 points. So they're 2 main studs, 3-point nights for both of them. And then this goalie, Nico Dawes, made 37 saves. And it was his first time playing since February 15th. And he only gives up 1 against a very good Pittsburgh lineup. Granted, I mean, they still got Crosby. They still got Malkin. They still have Gensel. They still have Jeff Carter, Brian Rust, Rodriguez. This is a good Pittsburgh team. Obviously not playing well. It was late. Tristan Jarry got pulled after 5 goals on 19 shots midway through the second. And they've been getting outscored 14-5 on this losing streak. I mean, Pittsburgh just can't really seem to find it. They usually go through hot and cold stretches like this, especially with Crosby and Malkin. I feel like the age factor. I feel like Pittsburgh's an older team. When you look around teams in the league, I feel like they're just older. For some reason, whenever I just look at their team, I'm like, why do I feel like all these guys have been around for so long? I mean, a lot of the guys are probably late 20s, early 30s, but still kind of old in terms of the league. I feel like the league is just getting so much younger. But they scored the Devils. This is the best stat I found. They scored on 3 of their first 7 shots. I mean, talk about a bad start for Tristan Jarry, who already has his skeptics and criticisms against him for his awful playoff runs. This dude allows 3 goals on 7 shots against the Devils. Come on, man. He's better than that. I know he's better than that. I think he's gone after this year, personally. I think they're going to run with the Smith and maybe get a different guy. But, I mean, good trade value. But, yeah, this was just not a great game for Pittsburgh. The Devils, nothing too special with the Devils. I think I'm going to talk about them a little bit later in terms of games because there was another game they played that was a lot of fun to watch. And it happens to be about one of my favorite teams as well. So, in the end, just an overall bad game, poor game for for Pittsburgh. Great game if you're the Devils, especially coming off that 8-game break. Usually you got to get your legs under you real fast, and they just put 3 goals on the first 7 shots. It took no time for them. They were ready to go from puck drop. Dougie Hamilton returned in this game. He was out with a jaw injury. That guy's big for this team. And as you could tell, he's in the lineup. They have a big offensive night. He was their big free agent acquisition, and rightfully so. He's one of the best defensemen in the league. He has for the last couple of years, especially when he was in Carolina. He was one of their probably, if it wasn't Jacob Slavin, he was their number 1 guy. He's been on fire. They desperately need him to just eat up minutes on that back end, create offense, shut it down defensively, captain that power play. He's the guy. So to have Dougie back, huge for the Devils, especially late here or heading in this last stretch of the season. Andreas Janssen was back after missing a bunch of games, but Jesper Bratt, all right, I got that name right. I can get that name right. If I had to highlight somebody on this Devils team just to give them props, because I already bashed Pittsburgh, so I'm going to give props to New Jersey, it'd be Jesper Bratt. He scored 16 goals in 46 games this year. He's already tied his career high, and he's going to beat it. This kid can score. He's a good young talent. The Devils, I feel like they're almost like Detroit. You know? Like, Detroit got their goaltending. They got Gresh. They got Nedeljkovic. Like, they're right there. Like, they're running for playoff spots right now. They have a couple good they have a bunch of good pieces. Larkin, Zadina, Raymond, Seider. You know, they have all of these young pieces, and it's finally all clicking together this year. Not to – like, if they don't make the playoffs, it's not a surprise. But see, like, for the Devils, I feel like they're right there. If they can solidify that goaltending, they have enough young pieces. They have a couple big-time names. They could do something. I really believe it. And maybe not – obviously not this year. Maybe next year could be like Detroit this year and, like, start competing for it. I would say 2 to 3 years. I think the Devils will be in the playoffs. I think Jack Hughes will get them to the playoffs. Now, do I think they win a cup? No. They'd have to make some big-time moves between now and a few years from now. But I just don't see them I see them competing for a cup, not winning one. No, I can't think Jack Hughes is going to be a Stanley Cup winner unless he gets traded to a different team. But that's just me. Moving on, though. Next game was Columbus, Florida. Florida, one of, if not the best team. Okay, not the best team in the league because that's Colorado. They are hands down top 5 team in the NHL. Blowing my mind this year that a team in Sunrise, Florida, where 2 years ago they were talking about how they had 0 attendance basically. Now, one of the best teams in the NHL. You got to give credit to Sasha Barkov. He to me is a top 5 player in the NHL. Might be a top 3 centerman. Not might be. He probably is a top 3 centerman in the NHL. Sasha Barkov, lethal. But his counterpart, Jonathan Huberdeau, I don't even know the word. I don't even think I have the words to describe this guy. He has been lighting it up just as much as Alexander Barkov has. I mean, Alexander Barkov gets all of the love for the most part, but then Jonathan Huberdeau is just quietly creating a name for himself. He's among the league leaders in the NHL in points. He's among the league leaders in assists. I know he has I think he has at least an assist per game rate at this point. I mean, when you play alongside Barkov, who's just got a killer shot and just buries it, and you also have a couple other guys on that team too, Claire, Hornquist, all these guys that can just bury the puck, you're going to get assists. Their power play, stellar. It's just an all-around great team. And honestly, they started off great with Coach Joel Quenneville, and then the whole Blackhawks scandal came out. I thought they were just going to fall off the map. But they have just picked right up where they left off. And it has been so exciting to watch. I got to give them credit for that. But on the flip side, though, Columbus beat them. I know I just raving about Florida. Columbus did beat them, though, 6-3. Patrick Laine, he is on this 11-game point streak. This is through Thursday. He did lose it. But through Thursday, he was on an 11-game point streak. He had 21 points in 11 games, 13 goals. He was averaging over a goal per game in 11 straight games during that streak. Longest active streak in the NHL up till then. During the season, the guys, I don't even have to explain to you Patrick Laine. The guy is a pure sniper, and the guy has a bullet or laser. Let's see. I don't even think both of those do justice. He is just – his shot is like an Ovi. Ovi when he sits in his office and just pops him off on the power play? This guy just pops him off for a wrist shot, just a leisurely wrist shot. I mean, it's just nonstop. He's just firing it, and he is unbelievable. The guy's the hardest shot, one of the hardest shots in the game. Maybe not slap shot, but wrist shot at least. Probably a slap shot too. But this team just came out firing. They honestly owed Florida a game. Columbus had gotten blown out by Florida 9-2 and 8-4 this year. So to beat them 6-3 was huge. They just got off of it right from the jump. As soon as that puck dropped, they were firing. They didn't even have Corpusalo or Merslikins in goal. They had JF Berube in goal. And he shut the door. A guy you wouldn't really expect, but he shut the door. So overall, really good game for Columbus. They were kind of on a good stretch lately. They beat the Hawks and beaten the Panthers. Not a team competing for a playoff spot by any means, but has got some good pieces that they're just consistently just like a sneaky team. Like, you just kind of got to worry about it. Like, a lot of teams probably go and play Columbus and like, it's just Columbus. Okay, we got a shot down line A. Okay, we got to worry about Werenski on the back end. But this team competes. I mean, think about it. Like, their payroll was like nothing compared to the Lightning's payroll that year they swept them in the Cup, the first round of the playoffs. And Tampa Bay just set the record for most points in the season. Like, you can't underestimate Columbus. So I think Panthers maybe did that, and that was that. So Columbus then moved to 4 straight wins because of that. And finally, on Thursday's slate, because we're still on Thursday. Yeah, I know. I'm gonna learn. I'm gonna learn this. All right, you got to bear with me first few episodes. I'm still like getting the tactic down. But Austin Matthews. What else can I say about this man? He scored his league-leading 35th and 36th goals of the season against Minnesota on Thursday night to win 3-1 over the Minnesota Wild. Peter Mrazek made 29 saves. They just ended their 3-game losing streak, Toronto, during this game. Basically, why I picked this game is Austin Matthews, man. I will not name it because Patrick Kane is the greatest American-born hockey player of all time, and that is solidified fact. I don't think Matthews will catch him, but Austin Matthews is so freaking good. Like, that, again, I think an understatement. I mean, it is past 100 games. So Austin Matthews last 100 games. He has 77 goals. Like, so basically in almost 20 of those, in 20 of his last 100 games, he hasn't had a goal. 23 to be exact. So in only 23 of his last 100 games, he has not scored at least one. That is insane. That is such an insane stat. Talk about another guy, just like Laine, who just, that puck just flies off of his stick when he shoots it. And the guy's accuracy, that man could have this much. I mean, you can't see it because I'm doing it for the YouTube video, but for the podcast people, think about maybe like 3 to 4 inches of space. Whatever, like, a puck can barely fit through, he can put it there with ease. Like, no ifs, ands, or buts about it. He just puts it right there, and it is so impressive. Like, I wish when I played, I had Austin Matthews' shot. I would just want, like, the hard and the speed of his shot. But if I had the precision and accuracy that this guy has, where he can put that puck anywhere he wants, whenever he feels like it, forehand, backhand, no matter what, kind of like Patrick Kane in a way. Oh, my God. I wouldn't be sitting here talking to you on a podcast. I'd be in the show at that point. Jeez. So I'm going to talk more about Toronto as a whole in a little bit because that Austin Matthews line of Michael Bunting, Austin Matthews, and Mitch Marner, you're going to want to hear about their game from Saturday night. But before we get to Saturday night, we got to talk about Friday night. Only 2 games. So only 2 games, not a lot. Or I only picked 2 games. As a whole, there were 6 games that night. Columbus and Carolina. Columbus snapped their winning streak by losing Carolina. Buffalo played St. Louis. St. Louis kept going. They had a couple-game winning streak after beating Buffalo. Winnipeg, Colorado. Colorado played back-to-back nights. Got a win. They were about to play back-to-back nights. Friday was the first game. Beat Winnipeg 6-3. Vegas played Arizona. Arizona won at home against very solid Vegas team, 3-1. And then Los Angeles and Anaheim, the battle in Cali. Out west, the Kings took that one, surprisingly, 4-1. I like the Ducks, man. The Ducks, they're going to be good in like 2 years. They're already really good this year. I think 2 years, they're going to be one of the best teams in the NHL. Easily. Easy. They got that many weapons and that many pieces that are still not on the roster. There are still guys in juniors and in minors that I think are going to make huge impacts. But 2 games I want to talk about. The first one, because I'm going to go – the second one, I'm going to get to dive in a lot more on because it's my boys. Just saying. But the first one, Gabriel Landeskog, after having 2 goals against Detroit, comes out and goes, 2, that's funny. And puts 3 against the Jets, puts in a hat trick for the night. He just had a hat trick, 6 goals against Winnipeg in Denver. Like I said, when this team gets started, they just keep piling it on. And they are just so many weapons, man. So many weapons on this Colorado team. Nathan McKinnon scored twice. Francouz, I don't even remember. I don't even know how to pronounce it. 25 saves for the win. Colorado's 38-10-4. They've only lost 14 games this year. Think about that. Montreal has only 12 wins. Like, dude, come on. That's nuts. So, Nate McKinnon, say what you want about Connor McDavid, all right? Say what you want. He is probably the greatest NHL player we will witness just off of skill and the tangibles that he has. Nathan McKinnon, to me, is the best player in the league. Just in terms of everything. Like, how he plays on the ice is world-class, God tier. But also just how he is as a teammate off the ice. He's already discussed many times that he would take a discount on his next contract so he could keep a lot of these pieces together. Like, that's a captain right there. That's a guy I want to play for, and I think a lot of guys would love to play for. He's just that good. For Winnipeg, Kyle Connor scored his 30th goal of the year. Great young piece. I got to watch him at Michigan years ago when he was there. Knew he was special from that point. I was there for a Wisco Michigan game. It was like 8-7 or something like that was the final score. And Kyle Connor had like 2. It was awesome to watch. That was a really good young team up there in Michigan. But Connor Hellebuck, one of the best goalies in the league, 36 saves. There's just nothing you can do against Colorado, man. If you don't have a solid defensive team, you're screwed. Pierre-Luc Dubois put it best, the centerman for Winnipeg. He said they're a fast team. Literally, they're that fast. All 4 lines are just like that. But the funny thing is, Colorado was actually losing in this game. They were down 3-0 in the first period and then won 6-3. Just a huge comeback. They just kept this team just keeps working and working and working and working. It's really tough you have any lead. I mean, it's tough to keep a lead in general, but you know how they say a 2-goal lead's the worst lead in hockey. You could probably say that. You could probably say that if you had a 3 or 4-goal lead and you were playing Colorado, because literally you could be up 4-0 and they're probably going to come back and they're going to make a run at it. That they're just that good, man. I don't even know what else to say at this point. I could go on and on and on about Nate McKinnon and this Colorado team that you guys are honestly going to get sick and tired of it. You're probably going to hear a lot about that team. So get used to it. Next, Friday nights. I was out two-stepping, but I was watching this from my phone. If you don't know what two-stepping is, it's an Oklahoma thing. Very fun, though. You should try it. My boys were playing against the New Jersey Devils, and we put in 8. We won 8-5. Not we. The Chicago Blackhawks won 8-5 over the New Jersey Devils, 10-7 game skid at home, which to me blows my mind because when I was growing up, if you lost at the United Center, that was like huge. Like the Hawks never lost at the United Center. All right? It was insane. Like it was hands down still one of the best atmospheres in hockey, but definitely not the same anymore because the team's not that good. When that team is good, not a louder building in the league. I will fight people on that. I will show you a national anthem. It automatically beats it. All right? That's that. But reason why I picked this game, not only did the Hawks win 8-5, but there was a double hat trick, a double hattie night. Patrick hat-trick, Kane, and Brandon Hagel each had a hat trick in the game. Alex DeBrincat and Seth Jones had a hat trick of assists. Both had 3. Kevin Lankinen returned from his hand injury. First game since January 22nd. He made 31 saves. He gave up 5, yes, but luckily his team was right there to help with the scoring. Jesper Brock, just talked about him. He beat his career high. He scored twice. Jack Hughes had a goal and assist. John Gillies was in goal for the Devils. Don't really know him. He was a midseason acquisition from St. Louis. He made 29 saves. He defeated Pittsburgh. He was the goalie for that Pittsburgh game when they won 6-1 on that Thursday. It was just a fun game to watch, honestly. Just constant scoring, obviously, as you could tell, by 8-5. The Hawks had a 6-4 lead early in the third period. Devils scored, made it 6-5. Kane then scored to complete his hat trick to make it 7-5. Hagel then scored an empty netter to make it 8-5. It was his 100th game, too. Hagel got a hat trick in his 100th game. It was just an overall awesome game to watch. The Hawks had 3 power play goals. That power play has been lacking. But they were all cylinders go. Patrick Kane, like I said, the greatest American-born player of all time, and it's solidified. Don't give me this Mike Modano argument, because Kane's about to just absolutely demolish him in points. He already has demolished him in cups. Like, it's just not even close. He's had 56 multi-goal game, 5th most in Hawks history. And it was the first time since 2003 that 2 Hawks players have had a hat trick in the same game. It was the second time this season, NHL season has happened. I think it was Brian Rust and Evan Rodriguez did it in January for Pittsburgh. But overall, this is the kind of game from the Hawks I expected. So I won't go into too much because I'll probably talk about them a lot. But honestly, so disappointed with this Hawks team because I really think this was a year that they could have started competing for a playoff spot instead of really being in the hole. I think that a lot had to do with the start of the year. They had that 0-9-1 start. But this team is just super streaky, roller coaster-esque. Patrick Kane is Patrick Kane. Jonathan Toews has been out. I hope he doesn't retire, but it's kind of trending that way, which is very unfortunate. But they got a lot of good pieces. Alex DeBrincat's a superstar. Seth Jones, superstar. I think in 2 years when this team is I'm going to give them about 2 years till this team is all cylinders go competing for a cup. Seth Jones is going to be a Norris contender. DeBrincat and Kane are going to run the league. Brandon Hagel, he is already fielding first-round picks. Like, what? Like, I didn't think that. This kid is special. This kid plays hockey the right way. He grinds it out. He will hit you. He grinds it on the corners. He will snipe one past you, and then he'll lock it down defensively too. Like, the guy just plays a full-length game that I think the Hawks really could utilize. Like, it reminds me a lot of when Brendan Saad broke into the league with the Hawks and played alongside Taves and Hossa, and he just played an awesome two-way game. Some games you go out there and he just bash guys into the boards, and other games you go out there and he'd be sniping goalies left and right. And that's what Brandon Hagel is. He's just this energy that is just captivating. It's just like you notice him out there. You want to notice him out there. So awesome to watch. Kaner was selling hard. Doc had a goal who's been super streaky. I will talk about Doc another time. I still think we got to give him a chance. But, I mean, that was awesome. It was an awesome game. I wish I was there. I mean, an 8-5 game, not really great defensively, but you want to see the scoring. You want to see that United Center, that Madhouse rocking, and it definitely was. So I loved it. I was a huge fan of it. And it was just a great game. Awesome game to watch. I just loved it. So now let's go to Saturday briefly. It was yesterday. I only picked about 2 games. It was a full slate of NHL action. But I really just didn't want to talk. A lot of the teams I wanted to talk about were teams I've already talked about on this podcast so far. So I didn't really want to do it. The first game I'll talk about is 2 teams I've talked about a lot. And that's Toronto and Detroit. Now, if you missed it on Saturday, I would go watch the highlights. Let's just put it like this. The final score was 10-7. 10-7. Toronto had a touchdown and a field goal, and Detroit had a touchdown. Let's put it like that if we're going to talk football. But the Maple Leafs got to double digits. You never really see that too often in the NHL. You'll see about 8. People get to 8 or 9, maybe 7, but not really cracking double digits. The Hawks have done it before. A lot of teams have done it, but it's just so rare. But this is where I wanted to talk about Michael Bunting, Austin Matthews, and Mitch Marner. Mitch Marner had 4 goals for 6 points. Bunting, this rookie, had a goal and 4 assists. He had 5 points. Matthews, I don't even know what Matthews had. I think Matthews had 4 points. Yeah, he had a goal and 3 assists. He had 4 points. That line combined for what? 6 goals. Let's see, 6 points, 5 points, 4 points. That's what? Why am I not good at math? 15 points. Yeah, 6, 5 is 11, and 4 is 15. 15 points. That's nuts. That is insane. That's one line. One. Like this team, like this, they have found their first line. I was not big on Michael Bunting. This kid has been great form. He's been one of the best rookies in the league, and it is not necessarily like insane in points. Like obviously you're playing alongside Austin Matthews and Mitch Marner. Like you're gonna get your points. But he's not even like the leading rookie in points. But he still just continuously will have games like this where he just has like, a solid 5.9 just because he's on that line. He is the 9th Maple Leafs rookie to score 5 points a game and the first in the NHL expansion era. This rookie. And that's in Toronto, where let's talk about Toronto, an original 6 team. Come on. And this rookie's doing that for the first time since the expansion era. Like, it's crazy. It's just crazy. I'm running out of adjectives to describe how crazy that game was, this 10-7 game, but just like these teams in general. Austin Matthews also got his 37th, his league leading 37th goal to make it 7-2. Now, they were up like, I think it was like 7. Well, it was 7-2 at one point. Yeah, 7-2. And then 35 seconds into the third period, it's 7-3. And then it's 7-4. Then it's 7-5. And then it's 7-6. Like, Detroit made a huge comeback. And then it was 8-6, 8-7, 9-7, and then finally 10-7. Like, Toronto blew up in that third period. And a lot had to do with Jack Campbell. Like, one of my hockey broadcasters, I broadcast games for OU Hockey here. And one of my colleagues, Ben Dacu, I will have him on the show, by the way, because it will be so entertaining to talk Maple Leafs hockey with this guy, because I will bash Maple Leafs for days, and he won't. He loves them. I remember getting texts from him during this game, and I thought he was genuinely going to explode. He was getting so scared, and he loves Jack Campbell. I mean, he's huge on Jack Campbell. I'm not, by any means. He's huge on Jack Campbell. Jack Campbell played so bad in that third. He played so bad, and it's one of those things where it's like, you're in the playoffs, and you're the Leafs who can't get past that first round. You need a goalie that will just lock that door. And I don't think Jack Campbell will do that. I think he'll steal you a game or two, but I don't think he'll shut that door. Peter Mrazek's the backup, and he started for Carolina and has done well. Like, this team should be a team that makes it super far. And they just haven't. And a lot of times their superstars go cold. But the way Marner and Matthews are playing, we talk about it every year. We don't expect it to happen, but then it still happens. This might be the year it doesn't happen. I can see this team making it to the second or third round. Like, they might finally get over that hump. So it'll be interesting to see. But popping in 10, hey, that's a good start. You put 10 goals in most of your playoff games, I think you're going to win a cup. So for them, that was great. But moving on to the last game that we'll talk about in this little recap. I mean, this has been a long time. I'm so sorry. I'm going to throw in music. I'm going to split it up, obviously. Or I'm not going to. I am, because you're going to listen to this after I do that. So I did do that, as you can see, to maybe, make it a little easier to listen to. But yeah, so Saturday night, if you turn on your TV, you turn on TNT, you got to watch my boy Paul Bissonnette, Biz Nasty, and the TNT crew as the NHL had one of their outdoor games, the Stadium Series in Nashville, Tennessee, where the Tennessee Titans play at Nissan Stadium. Honestly, one of the cooler stadium setups I've seen for an outdoor game. I think it was one of the best setups. I thought the jerseys looked clean. The whole uniform concepts for both teams looked clean. I love the stages all around. You had a bunch of country artists. It was a Nashville show. It was a show in Nashville, basically. You had a bunch of country artists there. You had Jesse James Decker sing national anthem. Sounded beautiful. Dustin Lynch introduced both teams. He got to sing a little bit. They just had a stage down there. You had Walker Hayes sing that Applebee's song that I freaking hate. I cannot stand it. But, of course, they're going to have it because, oh, my God, it's a TikTok song. TikTok. So, screw that. But, so, Nashville had Stadium Series. It was Tampa Bay. They were playing the Lightning, the two-time defending Stanley Cup champion Lightning. And it was their first outdoor game ever in franchise history. And they're 1-0. They won 3-2. Steven Stamkos, Captain Stamkos. I mean, I got to watch this kid my whole life. Not even a kid, this man. My whole life. He's a Hall of Famer. First ballot. Just already put him in there. He had a goal and 2 assists. He's been revived this year. He had a bunch of injuries these last few years, and he has just been revived this year. He has been awesome. It was his first outdoor game. Tampa, like I mentioned, Tampa's first outdoor game ever, and they're 1-0. It was an awesome spectacle to watch. The ice was good. Guys were flying up and down. Kucherov had a goal and assist. Braden Point scored. Vasilevsky, the best goaltender in the league, maybe of all time, if he keeps doing what he's doing, made 26 saves. It was the Lightning's 4th straight win. And, again, this is just another team like Colorado that I could just run my mouth for so long about. This Tampa team is deep. I don't know how they do it. I know they do the little salary cap cheat like they did with Kucherov, where they put him on the IR and you get that $10 million cap back, and then you activate him for the playoffs and you're like, oh, it works now because there's no cap in the playoffs. But it was so – they're just still so deep. It's insane how some of these teams in the league are just that deep. But then again, it's not surprised. I act like I'm surprised. But then I think back to the Hawks Cup runs with the 3 and 6 years. That was a deep team too. Granted, their 4th line of Ben Eager, Colin Fraser, and Adam Bursch today would do nothing because I guess they would be the Islanders' 4th line. It's Cizikas, Cal Clutterbuck, and Matt Martin. But, I mean, it's just not the same. I feel like you need scoring on all 4 lines. Nowadays, at least. Nowadays in this league where it's not very physical, I think that's what you need. But it was awesome. 68,000 people packed into that stadium. It was Nashville's 2nd outdoor game. They lost to the Dallas Stars in the Cotton Bowl at the Winter Classic in 2020. Another awesome one. The Dallas jerseys were so clean in that game. Oh, my God, I loved them. But it was fun. It was a fun game to watch. It was a really good back and forth. A lot of action real early on. And, honestly, for a second there, I thought they were going to come back. Philip Forsberg, who's been on the trade market, I think Nashville needs to keep him. Nashville, again, a team I didn't really expect to do really well this year, has played really well. I think a lot has to do with UC Saros. He got taken under Pekka Rinne's wing. I'm going to talk about Pekka Rinne in a little bit. And it's just been dominant for his size, too. He is not a big goalie. He is small. And that dude is so fast. And it seems like he just takes up so much more than net than he should. It's been so interesting to watch that team play. I really didn't, like I said, did not really expect a whole lot out of them, but it's been an exciting team. Tanner Jeannot, I think that's how it's pronounced. They got a good young piece in this kid. He's a rookie, and he is just getting some power play. They were talking about it on the cast, the telecast. They're like, yeah, they're giving him a little more power play time. And then Jeannot scores. And it was like, oh, perfect timing because, he had just scored. It was his 18th goal of the year, which is tied for Michael Bunting with the most among rookies. So that's my thing is I think Bunting and Jeannot, they don't necessarily lead in points, but goals, they bury them. So they both have 18. They're leading the league. But it was just a good game back and forth. And it was a 3-2 game, close game, battle to the end. I mean, I watched the last probably 6 minutes of it. I watched most of the game, but the last 6 minutes or so, the Lightning the play was in their defensive zone. They had 6 more. The Nashville had 6 more shots on goal, and another 6 that the Lightning blocked in the last 7 minutes. So they basically had 12 shots in the last 7 minutes of the game. I mean, and then Philip Forsberg scored to make it a 3-2 game on the power play. They were coming back. If I was Tampa Bay, I was scared. They had Tampa on their heels, really just putting the pedal down. But Tampa Bay held their own. I mean, you have the best goalie in the NHL in Andrei Vasilevsky, and you have a really good defensive group. You have Sergachev, Hedman, McDonough, Chernak. Chernak actually, he left after the first period, concussion protocol. I thought Ryan Johansson was going to get kicked out a minute 19 into the game. I was like, man, that happened to Corey Perry against them in the Cotton Bowl one. I was like, here comes Ryan Johansson get kicked out for head contact. But again, a good Lightning win. Not much else to it. Stadium Series, I love those games. They're always so much fun to watch. I love it. I went to the Hawks one against Pittsburgh at Soldier Field, and it was just – those are just such cool spectacles. They're such cool spectacles to see. Yeah, I suggest getting to one. If you have the chance, I know like a lot of people down here in Oklahoma, hockey's not big, but I know a lot of people at that Cotton Bowl game, and they loved it. I mean, there's nothing like an outdoor game. I would sit through the cold for it. Sucks, hate it, but I would fight through the cold. So, all right. That was the game recaps from Wednesday through Sunday. So now how this is going to work now is basically after I do that, the rest of the show is just discussing big news from this week. There's a couple big news I'm just going to dive and give my 2 cents about. And then just looking forward to next week. I might address a couple things around the hockey world. But other than that, no, that's honestly what the show will be. And then we'll dive into what next week will look like and stuff like that. And then we'll close it out here. But for now, let's dive into the biggest news from Wednesday through Sunday. All right, so let's dive into the biggest news from Wednesday through Sunday. Just a couple quick things. The first one, since we just got finished talking about Nashville, let's keep talking about Nashville. Pekka Rinne. I grew up my whole life watching him. He was a pain in the butt against the Blackhawks for so many cup runs and playoff runs. He had his jersey retired. His number 35 is the first ever jersey retired by the Nashville Predators. And honestly, I could not think of a better player, but also a better human being than Pekka Rinne to be the first guy to have his jersey retired by Nashville. I think the next guy will be Shea Weber. If not Shea Weber, it'll be Roman Josi. But Pekka Rinne, there's so much you could talk about this guy. He led the Predators to their first and only ever cup final in 2017. They did lose to Pittsburgh, but he has been a backbone for that team since the moment he was drafted. He got drafted 258th overall in the 2004 draft and was the guy for Nashville for years. Like they were an expansion team, and when you're an expansion team and you're building a team and you're drafting guys, like you want to find those pieces that will maintain for years. Like the Hawks drafted Kane, drafted Taves, and then they ended up being pieces for years. Pekka Rinne got drafted, probably not a whole lot of expectations for him, and then just became the guy for years. And he's huge. He took up so much of that net. I was like, it's impossible to score on Pekka Rinne, but he's one of the best. He announced his retirement in July. And they just had the ceremony this week. It was an awesome ceremony. It had a whole week of festivities. It started Monday at Nashville Zoo. A goat was named after him. And then he was also there so much. He did the puck drop at the Stadium Series game. He opened the door for the team to come out. That city is his city. Let's put it like that. He won the Vezina. He went 369, 213, and 75 throughout his career. He played for the Finnish national team. He has the most games played, victories, and shutouts by a Finnish goalie in NHL history. His goals against average of 2.43 is tied for fourth best among goalies all time. He's also one of 12 goalies with at least 350 wins and 60 shutouts. He had 340-win seasons, tied for the second most in NHL history. And he was fourth in the Hart Trophy for MVP in 2011. Like I said, I can go on and on about this guy. I usually it's a guy that I had to watch so often, and to see them start see guys like that I've watched my whole life start retire. It's just so bittersweet. But he will get a bronze statue outside of Bridgestone Arena that will be unveiled next season. 100% deserving, 1,000% deserving. But it was so fun to just watch. He walked out into that stadium, and that place was so loud. Pack up. He had the guy always has the biggest smile on his face, and he had the biggest smile I think I've ever seen have him walk out there. It was a spectacle to watch. It was a guy that really helped solidify hockey in Nashville. Nashville, not really a hockey city, but if it weren't for Pekka Rinne and locking that door, but also great human being in the stuff that he did outside of there to really bring hockey into Nashville and really keep the Predators relevant. And just what he did, the work in the community, the people he helped, all the charities and stuff that he did. I mean, this guy deserves everything. He deserves the chance. He deserves the jersey retirement. He deserves the statue. I mean, when you think about the Nashville Predators, you think about Shea Weber, Roman Josi, Pekka Rinne. There's no really other names that you think about because they're such a young team still in terms of being in the expansion and everything like that. Once he retired, it was just imminent that he was going to be, jersey retired, everything like that. He signed a 7-year extension back in 2011, and that was basically it. He just wrote out that contract. But the big thing for me is, I talked about it, UC Saros. He took him under his wing. They were roommates on the road and stuff like that. He's a Finnish goaltender. You're learning from the best Finnish goaltender of all time. I mean, that's a storybook right there. UC Saros had nothing but praise for Pekka Rinne. Everybody's got praise for Pekka Rinne. But nobody deserves it more than him. And that's just how I'm going to put it. Nobody deserves it more than him. Congrats to Pekka Rinne on a fantastic, unbelievable career. First ballot Hall of Famer as well. He deserves everything. He's going to be around. They said he's been a breath of fresh energy for that Nashville team since the moment he kind of been hanging around a little bit lately with all this stuff going on. So awesome. Now moving to the next thing. Another guy I've watched my entire life. And now he just broke a record because I don't think he's ever going to retire. We talk about Jágr not retiring. We never talk about Zdeno Chara never retiring. I think he might after this year. But he breaks the NHL game record for most games by a defenseman on Thursday night. He played in his 1,652nd NHL game, beating Chris Chelios, former Hawk and Red Wing Chris Chelios. The 6'9", 250-pounder lasted this long in the league. He will be 45 in just a couple weeks. A Boston Bruins legend. Started his career with the Islanders, but mainly was a Boston Bruins legend, being a captain, winning a cup there. He tied Mark Recchi for 7th in most games played. Patrick Marleau holds the record for 1,779. So he's only I think he's less than 100. He's just over 100 away. I don't think he's going to get it. He's starting to wear down, but he just has that long reach. He fought in that game too. He fought. He's 45 years old, and he fought in his record-breaking game. It was one of the coolest things I got to see. I watched the video. Third-round pick in the 1996 draft. Made his debut in 97, and then was just a staple on any defensive core that he was on. He won the Norris with the Bruins in 2009 as the best defenseman. and he has 674 points in his career. I mean, Zdeno Chara, again, a first ballot Hall of Famer. That's what's kind of been so fun about watching a bunch of these guys retire that I got to grow up watching is like there are so many that you sit there and you're like, these guys, like I feel bad for the Hall of Fame committee because they're going to have a lot of tough decisions to make. And Zdeno Chara is going to make it. He's going to make it. I mean, he has the cup. He's a captain. He's going to get his jersey retired by at least Boston. I think that, well, he hasn't retired yet, but when he does, I think that's going to happen just like Pecorine, like right away. Chris Chelios played 26 NHL seasons and broke the record. I think he was with Atlanta, the Thrashers. Think about that. And Chara's only in his 24th NHL season, and he broke the record. So just the guy never missed a game. I remember back in 2016, 2017, maybe 2015, whenever the Blues won the Cup and they played the Bruins, Chara literally had his jaw wired shut and still played. Like, who's going to mess with him? He's 6'9". Like, nobody's going to mess with his jaw. Like, unbelievable. I loved the number 33 because of him. I was a huge fan of Chara growing up. So, yeah, that was that. Congrats to him on breaking that record. Another, like I said, first ballot Hall of Famer. Now, moving on to a little more serious news. This is the last little news I'm going to touch on. As we all know, the Russia invasion of Ukraine has kind of taken over our world, at least this week. It started this week. I am a big component of no war. I am a journalist, though, so it's kind of interesting to follow it and be in a newsroom here at school and have that be what we talk about. I've been following it a lot. I personally love learning about wars, so to be able to learn about it as it's happening is I don't want to say a cool experience, but it's interesting. I'm going to leave it an interesting experience for me. But obviously, with the Russian invasion, we have Russian players in the NHL. And obviously, you're going to have to address it. And the biggest name in the NHL that is a Russian is Alexander Ovechkin, the Great Eight. And you knew he was going to address it. And he did. After Washington Capitals practice on Friday, he was asked about it. And he said basically what I'm not going to do word for word what he said, obviously. But he reiterated, just like every other Russian athlete, Ukrainian athlete, everybody around the world is saying the same things. It's just no more war. He doesn't want it. He doesn't like it. He is just like the Russian citizens who also don't want it. And to have – you knew he had to say something. Obviously, you had to say something. But he got a lot of backlash, actually, because of this. But even though he said to me – he said the right things. He said just no more war. I've heard a lot of things because he has some, like, little relationship with Putin. But that doesn't matter in this case, all right? Putin's doing his own thing. Ovechkin doesn't support war. Like, to think that even though he has, like, a decent relationship with Putin, you're the biggest NHL star, probably one of, if not ever, in Russia. And you're probably going to beat Gretzky's goal record. Like, yeah, obviously Putin's probably going to have a decent relationship with you because you're a mega star. Like, so just to, like, the people that bash that, like, stop. Just stop. You know the last thing he wants to talk about is this stuff. And you knew he still had to address it, but Ovechkin does not want war. Nobody wants war, obviously. So that's just my little 2 cents about that. I didn't want to dive a whole lot into that just because it's not really – it's hockey-based, but it's not super hockey-based. But, yeah, so that was that. That's a little hockey news for the week. And then just kind of wrapping up here, last few minutes, just some other big-time news. I thought about diving into sports world news, but, like, this has gone on long enough. I don't want to make these, like, super long, so I'm not going to. Just real fast, they announced in Nashville they're building hockey ball rinks to just grow the game of hockey in Nashville, which I could not love more. It gives kids opportunities to go out there, play the game, the great game of hockey, and it just continues to grow that game,
continues to grow the sport in that city. Nashville has Smashville, as they were last night, has such a passionate fan base. And to just grow the youth game there is going to be huge. I used to play the Nashville Junior Predators. They weren't the best. I bet they're pretty good now, just as that game keeps growing. As the team gets better, everything around the city in hockey will get better. So I love that project. I love what the Nashville Predators are doing. Pecorine, I think, was on hand for it. And just another community thing that man does is spectacular. So in other news, Sean Avery, if you are my age, you know who Sean Avery is. If you're listening, if you're any younger than me, you might not know who he is. Greatest memory of that dude was when he screened the goalie and just stood in front of him. He didn't even look at the puck. He was just staring at the goalie, like waving his stick. He played 580 games in the NHL, most noticeably with the Rangers in my eyes. He got signed by the Orlando Solar Bears in the East Coast Hockey League, the ECHL, so like double A if you're talking like baseball stuff, because the AHL is obviously like triple A. He got released 2 days after signing. He's 41, all right? Like, he hasn't played since March of 2012. And so kind of weird that he got signed. It looks like it's kind of just a publicity stunt. The Solar Bears are an affiliate of the Lightning. He's been skating. I think Avery just wanted to skate, but it looked like just a lot of a publicity stunt. Because then you had Matthew Barnaby, Georges Laraque, like all these former fighters that would love to just take another swing at Sean Avery, because a lot of people would. They were like, sign me up. Hey, anybody in the ECHL want to sign me? So I think it's just a lot of a publicity stunt. I think he just wanted to skate with them. But it's still, nevertheless, a super funny story to talk about. And finally, just a contract extension. The Arizona Coyotes signed defenseman Dyson Mayo to a 3-year contract extension. The terms of the deals were obviously not released, but in 42 games this year, he has 3 goals, 3 assists, a 5th-round pick in 2014. He scored in his debut against Edmonton on October 21st. Just a really good stay-at-home defenseman, especially for a team looking to build around some of the pieces they have. This is one of their better pieces they have. Like I said, he's 25, young guy still. Big guy on their penalty kill, 83 block shots. He leads the team with 63 hits. Played about 258 games in the minors before getting his shot. Just like I said, all around just a solid guy that, teams love to lock up their young defensemen. In a league that's so offensive and so much talent, you need guys that will block shots and just lock it down defensively. And Dyson Mayo does that. I got to watch him. The Hawks were in Arizona over my winter break in January. Got to watch him play. He had a goal. I didn't even know who he was. I won't lie. I didn't know a lot of the guys in Arizona, but he was a name that I definitely remembered after the fact, just being shut down. They blocked so many shots that game, and I think he had a bunch of them. So really good signing. I like the signing personally. I think it's great for Arizona, especially, like I said, just solidifying their young pieces before he'll be there the next 3 years while they play at Arizona State Stadium. So have fun with that. But, yeah, so that's the hockey news from around the world. Obviously, there's, like, little news here and there. These, to me, were the bigger stuff. Obviously, I always hope there's big-time news to talk about. But that was just, like, the smaller stuff. Obviously, the big-time news was more Pecorine, Chara, Ovechkin with Ukraine, Stadium Series game. These were all just little kind of smaller things. So I'm not going to talk about other stuff around the sports world. If the other weeks the shows are a little less, I will. This one seems a little longer, kind of pushing a little bit. I got to do some editing. I will do editing because you will listen to it after the editing. So I will do some editing. I do this all by myself. As you can see, I'm sitting in my room. So looking ahead to next week, we're going to look ahead through Wednesday because the next episode will come out Wednesday, and it will talk about tonight's games through Wednesday. Monday night, big-time matchup. You got Washington-Toronto. That's going to be a real good one. 3 games on Monday, full slate of action on Tuesday. Big matchup standing out to me, Columbus, New Jersey. You can watch that on ESPN+. Detroit, Carolina could be a really good game. Nedeljkovic playing his former team. Calgary, Minnesota. Boston, Anaheim, two just like sneaky good teams. That'll be a good one. Montreal, Winnipeg, Battle of Canada, another good one to keep your eye on. And then Wednesday, you got Buffalo and Toronto, St. Louis and the Rangers, LA, Dallas, and Nashville and Seattle. Some good matchups. But then obviously I'll talk about more of the matchups later on in the week. The other ones that are happening later on in the week, I'll talk about those on Wednesday. But other than that, that is it for episode 1 of Full Gong Show. This will be up. But also check out my website, benthomas.tv.godaddysite.com. I know it's long. I'm so sorry, but I had to use the free domain names because I don't want to pay for it. So it's benthomas.tv.godaddysite.com. You can check out my article that I'll be posting as well, which is just a full recap of the week of NHL action, kind of similar to what we talked about on the podcast, but more of like a full week. Kind of just dive through a couple of games, some of the big news that I talked about today on the pod as well, along with looking ahead to next week and also maybe even my 3 stars from this past week of NHL action. But in the end, overall, that is it for me. Thank you for tuning into episode 1 of Full Gong Show. Like I said, every Wednesday, every Sunday, I will be busting out these podcasts. But you can also look me up on YouTube, Ben Thomas TV, for the Zoom. I'm using Zoom. The Zoom, you can watch me talk about it. I just kind of stare at the laptop. Nothing too crazy. If you want to see where I'm working in my bedroom, sure. If you really want to look at it, go for it. But that is that. So yeah, check it out. Check out the website. Check out YouTube. Keep listening to the podcast here on Anchor FM or Spotify. I'm going to try to get it to Apple Podcasts here soon. Once we're kind of up and running a little bit, I'll work on that. But that is that. I'm Ben Thomas. This has been Full Gong Show. Thank you, everybody. Have an awesome week. I hope your weekend was well as well. And like I said, stay tuned for episode 2 coming out on Wednesday. Peace.